In the wide open lands of the western plains lived a quiet cowboy named Tom. He was not famous and not wealthy. He worked long days on a small ranch that was not even his own. Tom earned only enough money to eat simple meals and keep his old horse fed. Most people in town did not notice him. They only saw a thin young man in worn boots and a faded hat. Still, Tom stayed kind and gentle with everyone he met, including animals. One cool morning, the town of Red Hill woke to strange news. A giant wolf had been discovered near the edge of the forest that bordered the plains. People gathered around the news like bees around a flower. Some said the wolf was taller than any man. Some said its fur shone like silver in the sun. Others claimed it carried a calm sadness in its eyes. The town grew louder as the story spread, and fear ran like a cold wind through the streets. Sheriff Roy decided to bring the wolf into town so everyone could see it and decide what to do. Hearing this, people rushed to the center of town. They whispered and pointed as the sheriff's men brought the animal forward. A heavy iron chain was around its neck, but the wolf walked slowly and quietly. Its huge paws pressed gently on the dusty ground. Its ears were low, not in anger but in tiredness. The giant wolf was unlike anything the townsfolk had seen. Its fur was a mix of silver and soft gray. Its eyes were warm, golden, and surprisingly gentle. Even though the wolf was large enough to frighten any person at first glance, it did not snarl or growl. Instead, it looked at the crowd with a calm that many found unsettling. Children hid behind their parents. Adults stepped back, unsure of what such a creature might do. Only the wind dared to move closer, brushing through the wolf's thick coat. Sheriff Roy called for silence. He stood tall and strong, yet even he seemed unsure. He announced that the wolf had been found alone with no signs of danger nearby. Still, no one wanted a giant wolf near their homes. They feared it would harm their animals or frighten their children. A few people suggested sending it far away. Some wanted it locked somewhere forever. Others simply backed away and refused to decide. Tom stood near the edge of the crowd. He had come into town to buy a small bag of feed for his horse, but now he found himself staring at the wolf. While everyone else stepped back, Tom stepped a little closer. He studied the wolf's eyes and noticed something no one else seemed to see. This creature looked lonely, not dangerous. There was a quiet sadness in its gaze, as if it had lost something important or had wandered far from home. The sheriff lifted his voice again and said the wolf needed a caretaker or a place to go. He asked if anyone would take responsibility for it. The crowd fell silent. No one moved. Some shook their heads. Some whispered behind their hands. No person wanted a giant wolf. They saw trouble in its size, not kindness in its heart. Tom felt a pull inside his chest. He remembered long nights on the ranch when he felt lonely too. He remembered the comfort of sitting beside the old ranch dog and how the animal had stayed by him during hard times. Looking at the wolf now, Tom saw that same quiet spirit. He stepped forward without thinking much. His boots crunched on the dry ground, and heads turned toward him. The sheriff looked surprised. The townsfolk stared. Tom was not known for bravery or bold choices. But he walked with steady steps until he stood only a few feet from the giant wolf. The wolf lifted its head slightly and looked right at him. Its golden eyes were soft and full of questions. The chain around its neck rattled lightly as it breathed. Tom swallowed his nervousness. He raised his hand, not to touch the wolf but to show he meant no harm. The wolf blinked slowly, a peaceful gesture that made Tom feel braver. He turned to the sheriff and the townspeople. In a calm voice, he said the words that shocked everyone around him. "He's mine." The crowd gasped. Some widened their eyes. Some shook their heads in disbelief. Sheriff Roy stepped forward with uncertainty. He asked Tom if he understood the responsibility. Tom nodded. He said he had looked into the animal's eyes and seen no harm. He believed the wolf needed a friend, not fear. Even though Tom had little in life, he had a heart full of patience, and he believed he could handle the creature. The sheriff studied Tom for a long moment. Then he studied the wolf. He saw the wolf standing still, showing no anger, no danger. Slowly and carefully, he lifted the chain and offered it to Tom. The metal link felt heavy in Tom's hand, but the weight did not frighten him. The giant wolf remained still, watching quietly as if waiting for Tom to make the next move. Tom spoke softly to the wolf. The sound of his voice was steady and warm. The wolf lowered its head, almost like a quiet bow. Then, without any pull or force, it walked beside him as Tom turned toward the road that led out of town. The people watched in complete silence as the cowboy and the giant wolf walked away together. No one spoke until the pair became only small shapes against the golden plains. On the long path home, Tom felt something new in the air. The wolf walked close, not pulling or resisting. Its giant paws moved with surprising grace. Birds flew overhead, singing gently, as if watching the strange friendship that had just begun. Tom felt a warm sense of purpose he had not felt in many years. He had no idea what adventures waited ahead. He only knew that the giant wolf had chosen to trust him, and he had chosen to trust it in return. And for the first time in a long time, the quiet cowboy did not feel alone. When the giant wolf stepped out of the old barn beside the cowboy, the people at the market stepped back. The wolf was taller than any animal they had seen in their small town. His fur shined like silver in the sunlight. His eyes were calm but sharp. Children hid behind their parents, and even the strong men moved away. No one knew what the wolf might do. But the cowboy named Rafi walked beside the wolf without fear. He had one hand gently resting on the wolf's neck. It looked as if Rafi had known the animal for years, even though they had only met the day before. The crowd could not understand how such a poor cowboy could walk with such a huge creature as if it were something normal. The shopkeeper who owned the barn came running out. He pointed at the wolf and shook his head. He told Rafi that the wolf was too big, too wild, and too strange. He said no one wanted it. He said the wolf was trouble and should be left behind. But Rafi only smiled and said the wolf belonged with him. People whispered that Rafi had lost his mind, yet he kept walking quietly, showing no worry at all. The wolf stayed close to him. It walked slowly, as if trying not to scare the people around. But no matter how gentle it looked, the crowd still whispered. They had never seen an animal like this. It was not a normal wolf. It looked too strong and too big. Some people thought it came from far mountains. Others said it might be part of an old legend. Rafi did not care about the stories. All he knew was that the wolf had looked at him with trust when no one else had wanted it. After leaving town, Rafi led the wolf along a dusty road through the plains. The wind blew softly through the tall grass. The sun was setting, painting the sky with warm orange and gold colors. Rafi and the wolf walked side by side. Every few steps, Rafi looked at the animal and wondered what kind of life it had lived before they met. The wolf looked calm, but Rafi could tell it had known fear and loneliness. He had seen the same look many times in abandoned horses and stray dogs around the farms. Rafi stopped near a small stream. He let the wolf drink water while he filled his own bottle. Then he sat on a rock and watched the wolf splash its paws in the water. The giant creature behaved like a young pup, curious and gentle. Rafi laughed quietly. He had never seen something so big act so harmless. He reached out and touched the wolf's fur. It was soft and warm. The wolf leaned into his hand as if thanking him for kindness. The poor cowboy did not have many things. His clothes were worn. His boots had scratches, and his hat was old. But he had a good heart. He did not see the wolf as a danger. He saw a lonely creature in need of a friend. And for the first time in a long while, Rafi felt like he was needed too. As night came, Rafi built a small fire. He cooked a simple meal. The wolf watched him closely, but it did not try to take the food. It only waited patiently. Rafi smiled and shared half of his meal with the wolf. The wolf ate slowly, as if trying to show respect. After dinner, the wolf lay down near Rafi. Its huge body formed a warm shield against the cool night air. Rafi felt safe. He looked up at the stars and wondered what tomorrow would bring. He had no plan. He had no money. But he had a new companion, and something inside him told him their meeting had not been an accident. Early the next morning, the sky glowed with soft pink light. Birds began to sing. The wolf stood up and walked to the edge of the hill. It lifted its head toward the horizon, as if listening to something far away. Rafi walked over and placed a hand on the wolf's back. The animal relaxed and sat down beside him. Rafi admired the view. The land stretched far beyond the hills, and the rising sun lit up the fields. Rafi had always traveled alone. He moved from town to find work. Sometimes he worked with cattle, sometimes he fixed fences, and sometimes he helped old farmers with chores. He earned little, but he never complained. Life was simple. Now, with the wolf beside him, that simple life felt different. It felt larger, like new possibilities had opened. He looked at the wolf and spoke softly. He said they needed a name for the giant companion. After thinking for some time, he chose the name Ryan. The name meant hope to him. The wolf lifted its ears when he said it. Rafi repeated it gently. Ryan. The wolf wagged its tail. The name seemed to fit perfectly. Rafi and Ryan continued their journey. They reached a wide open field where a group of horses were running. One of the horses was stuck near a fence. Its leg was caught in some loose wire. Rafi hurried to help. He knew horses well, and he moved slowly to avoid scaring the animal. Ryan stayed back at first, sitting quietly like he understood Rafi needed space. When Rafi reached the trapped horse, he spoke to it in a calm voice. The horse trembled but did not kick. It trusted Rafi's gentle tone. Rafi carefully removed the wire and freed the horse. The horse shook its mane and bolted back toward the herd. Rafi smiled with relief. But what surprised him was how Ryan watched everything. The wolf seemed to understand that Rafi had done something kind. When Rafi walked back, Ryan approached and sniffed his hands. The wolf's eyes were warm and soft. Rafi felt a deep connection forming. It was the kind of bond that did not come easily. It was a silent promise of loyalty. As they walked further, the day grew warm. They reached a small village where people farmed vegetables and kept chickens. At first, the villagers stepped back when they saw Ryan. But when they noticed Rafi holding the wolf calmly, they relaxed a little. Rafi told them he only needed water and maybe small work. The villagers whispered among themselves. They had seen strangers before, but never someone walking with such a giant wolf. One old farmer stepped forward. He said he had a field that needed clearing. If Rafi worked, he would give him a meal and some water for the road. Rafi agreed with a smile. While he worked, Ryan rested under a tree. Children watched the wolf from far away. Ryan never moved toward them. He stayed calm and gentle. By evening, the farmer thanked Rafi with warm food and cool water. Before leaving, the farmer looked at the wolf and then at Rafi. He said the wolf was special. He said no one wanted it before, but maybe it had been waiting for the right person. Rafi walked away with Ryan at his side and thought about those words. He felt they were true. The world had pushed both of them aside in different ways. But now, together they were stronger. Their journey was only beginning. Morning came softly over the valley, and the first rays of sunlight touched the rocky hills like warm gold. The village below was slowly waking. Doors opened. Smoke rose from chimneys. People stepped outside to begin their daily tasks. But the moment they looked toward the main road, their eyes widened again. The giant wolf was still there. The wolf lay beside the fence near the cowboy's small cabin. He was awake but calm, his huge head resting on his paws. The cool morning breeze lifted his thick fur, and in the sunlight he looked even larger than he had the night before. A few villagers kept their distance, whispering and pointing, but not one dared come close. Inside the cabin, the cowboy named Sam finished tying his boots. His hands moved slowly because he had not slept much. Every time he closed his eyes, He kept seeing the wolf lying outside his door like a silent guardian. He could not understand why the animal had followed him home. He had only stepped forward in the auction ground because he could not watch anyone harm the wolf. He had acted on instinct, not thinking about what would come after. He stepped outside and found the wolf watching him with steady eyes. Sam took a deep breath and approached him the same way he had the night before, with slow steps and steady movements. He wanted the wolf to know he meant no harm. The wolf lifted his head and gave a low rumble, not threatening but alert. Sam stopped in front of him. "You did not leave," he said. His voice was calm but surprised. "I thought you would run into the hills." The wolf stayed still, simply blinking at him. Sam did not expect an answer, but the quiet trust in the animal's eyes felt like one. Something inside him softened again. He crouched down so he was at the wolf's eye level. "You followed me home," Sam whispered. "Why?" The wolf let out a soft huff and lowered his head again. Sam felt a strange pull in his chest. He had always lived alone, moving from job to job, ranch to ranch. No one waited for him. No one followed him. But here sat a creature that everyone feared, yet it had chosen him. Before he could think further, he heard a group of villagers approaching the fence with caution. One of them, a middle-aged man named Tom, stood in front. "Sam, we need to talk," Tom said. "We cannot have that animal lying around here. People are scared." Sam stood up slowly. "I know, but he has not harmed anyone." Tom frowned, keeping a safe distance. "That is not the point. A creature that size can cause trouble without meaning to. What if a child gets too close? What if he gets hungry? We cannot take risks." Sam looked at the wolf again. The animal remained still, not showing any sign of aggression. He felt responsible for him now. It was wrong to return him to a cage or force him away into danger. "I will take him up to the hills," Sam said. "I will keep him away from the village. Just give me some time." Tom whispered something to the others. They exchanged unsure looks but finally nodded. They trusted Sam more than they feared him. He had helped many families repair barns, fix fences, and guide cattle. They knew he was honest and steady. "Fine," Tom said. "But do not bring him near the school or the market. People need to feel safe." Sam nodded. "I understand." The villagers left one by one. When the last one walked away, Sam looked at the wolf again. The wolf stretched out his long legs and stood. Even standing calmly, his size was impressive. Sam crossed his arms as he thought. "All right," Sam said. "Let us head to the hills." He grabbed his old hat, slung a water bottle across his shoulder, and walked toward the rocky trail behind his cabin. The wolf followed close enough to stay near him but far enough to give him space. They walked side by side like two travelers who had known each other for years. The morning sun warmed the grass as they climbed upward. Birds called from treetops. Leaves rustled softly. Sam found himself talking even though the wolf could not answer. "I am not sure what you want or why you chose me," Sam said. "But if we are going to figure this out, we need a place where no one gets scared of you." The wolf paced beside him, quiet and focused. Sam found an open clearing halfway up the hill. A small stream ran through it, and there was shade under a large oak tree. It looked peaceful and hidden enough for now. "This might work," Sam said. The wolf sniffed the ground, looked around, then sat near the oak tree as if approving the place. Sam smiled. He had no idea why, but he felt the wolf understood him in a different way than most creatures. Sam walked toward the stream and filled a small metal cup with water. He placed it on a rock near the wolf and stepped away. The wolf lowered his head and drank with slow, steady gulps. Sam felt relief. Caring for him felt natural. Hours passed as Sam studied how the wolf behaved. He was strong but gentle. Alert but not aggressive. When a rabbit hopped nearby, the wolf did not chase it. Instead, he only watched with quiet curiosity before turning back to Sam. "You are not what people think you are," Sam said softly. Later that afternoon, Sam gathered dried branches and made a small fire. He warmed bread and beans while the wolf rested under the oak tree. Every few minutes, the wolf lifted his head and checked the area, as if guarding Sam. The idea felt strange but comforting. As Sam ate, he kept glancing at the wolf. He could feel a silent connection forming, something steady and real. The wolf was wild, powerful, and misunderstood, yet he had chosen to trust Sam. And Sam found himself trusting the wolf in return. When the sun began to set, painting the sky with soft orange light, Sam knew one thing with certainty. This was no ordinary animal. And their story was just beginning. The real challenges had not even started. But Sam also felt something else. He was no longer alone. The sun rose slowly over the open land, spreading a soft golden light across the quiet fields. Sam woke early as always. His small home still felt peaceful, and the giant wolf, whom he had named Shadow, curled beside the house like a calm guardian. Each morning brought new challenges, but Sam now moved with a steady confidence. He was no longer the lonely cowboy people once ignored. He had a friend who trusted him completely, and he was learning each day that loyalty could build strength from places he never expected. Shadow lifted his head as Sam stepped outside. The wolf's eyes were gentle, and even though he had an impressive size, he acted with calm respect around Sam. The two had grown close in a short time, and most mornings began with the same small moment of quiet understanding. Sam placed one hand on Shadow's thick fur and whispered a greeting. Shadow wagged his tail in a slow and peaceful rhythm. On this particular morning, Sam had a task that required care. His neighbor, a kind older woman named Maria, had sent word that her goats were restless and troubled during the night. She lived a few hills away and trusted Sam's calm nature with animals. Sam agreed to help her and decided to take Shadow along, not as protection but as company. Shadow always stayed calm around livestock, and that made everyone in the area less afraid of his size. As Sam and Shadow walked down the dusty trail, the warm air moved around them in a soft breeze. The path stretched far, with tall grass on both sides. Birds flew overhead. Everything felt peaceful, but Sam sensed a little worry about Maria. She rarely asked for help unless she needed it. Shadow sensed Sam's concern and stayed close, his steps quiet and steady. When they reached Maria's small farm, Sam noticed she stood near the old wooden gate with a worried expression. She welcomed Sam with a smile but kept glancing at her goats, which gathered near the barn in a tight group. Sam listened carefully as Maria explained that the goats had refused to graze the day before and had stayed restless through the night. No harm had come to them, but something had unsettled them. Sam walked toward the barn slowly. Shadow followed him, careful not to scare the goats. Sam examined the area with quiet focus. The ground carried no marks of danger. The grass looked untouched. Even the wind seemed calm. Nothing suggested a threat. Still, the animals never acted without reason. Sam took his time, watching and listening to the small movements around him. Then he realized something. The goats kept looking toward a small patch of trees behind the barn. Their attention remained locked on that direction. Sam walked there slowly with Shadow. As he stepped closer, a soft sound reached him. It was not loud or alarming. It was a simple cry, light and weak, almost like a lost call for help. Sam paused and looked around carefully. Within the shadows of the trees, he found a small animal resting under a fallen branch. It was a young fawn, trembling with fear. The little creature looked thin and tired. It must have wandered away from its mother and become stuck. The goats had felt the fear of the fawn, not the presence of danger. Sam felt compassion swell inside him. Shadow stepped closer but stayed gentle, lowering his head with slow respect. The fawn looked up at him, wide-eyed but not panicked. Sam knelt down beside the small creature and spoke in a soft tone. His steady presence helped calm the fawn. Together, he and Shadow lifted the branch enough for the fawn to stand. Maria stood nearby, hands clasped, relieved to see the truth behind the goat's fear. She brought the fawn water and placed a small blanket nearby. Sam knew the mother deer might return once the land felt calm again. So he asked Maria to wait a few hours before moving the fawn farther. Maria trusted Sam's judgment. As Sam and Shadow began walking back home, a warm sense of purpose filled Sam's heart. Helping Maria reminded him that kindness spread in quiet ways. The world often felt large and unpredictable, yet moments of peace showed up when people took time to look closely. Shadow walked with his tail lifted, pleased with the day's meaning. Sam smiled and scratched the wolf behind the ear. They continued along the trail, enjoying the slow warmth of the afternoon sun. Little by little, Sam's quiet life was changing. People in the area had begun to speak of him not as the poor cowboy who lived alone, but as a steady man who brought comfort where it was needed. Later that evening, Sam sat outside with Shadow by his side. The sky turned deep orange, then soft pink, then calm blue. Fireflies appeared around them, glowing gently in the peaceful air. Sam looked across the land and felt grateful for the day. Shadow rested his big head near Sam's foot and breathed in a calm rhythm. As the stars appeared overhead, Sam thought about how far they had come. When he first pointed at Shadow and said he wanted him, no one understood. People doubted him. They feared the giant wolf and questioned Sam's judgment. Yet now, the same people were beginning to see something different. They saw a bond built on trust, kindness, and quiet courage. The night grew cooler. Sam stood and stretched, feeling the gentle pull of the day's work. Shadow rose as well, ready to follow him inside. But before going in, Sam paused one last time to take in the peaceful night around him. This land, simple and open, felt like home more than ever. And Shadow, once unwanted, now stood as Sam's closest companion. As they stepped inside, Sam felt a strong calm settle inside him. Whatever came next, he believed they could face it together. Shadow curled up in his usual spot near the door. Sam lay down on his bed, ready for rest, and the quiet room filled with a peaceful stillness. The next morning would bring new challenges, new tasks, and new lessons. But Sam felt ready. With Shadow by his side, he was no longer walking through life alone. The bond between them had grown stronger with every passing day, shaping a story that was still far from its end. Morning arrived over the quiet valley with a soft golden shine. The giant wolf, now named Storm, rested near the small cabin while the poor cowboy, named Sam, packed a few old bags. The air was cool and light fog moved across the field. Storm watched calmly as Sam checked each strap on the saddle. The place felt peaceful, yet Sam knew that an important decision waited for both of them. During the past weeks, people from nearby towns had visited the valley to see the giant wolf. Some came with curiosity, some with fear, and others with simple admiration for a creature that looked strong but acted gentle. Storm stayed by Sam's side the whole time and never showed anger. He followed Sam's voice and listened to Sam's calm guidance. One afternoon, a group of ranch owners approached Sam. They had heard stories about a giant wolf living with a cowboy and wanted to see if it was true. When they reached the field and saw Storm sitting with calm eyes and slow breaths, they were surprised. Many whispered among themselves, thinking Storm might bring danger, but Sam explained patiently that Storm only wanted a place to belong. A few days later, a messenger from the city arrived. He carried a letter from people who studied animals. They had heard about Storm and wanted to take him to a large center far away. They believed they could study him and learn about his size and nature. They promised comfort and safety, but Sam felt uneasy. He knew Storm did not enjoy crowded places or loud sounds. Storm had chosen peace beside him, not life inside a building. The night after the letter arrived, Sam sat outside the cabin near a small fire. Storm rested beside him, close enough that Sam felt the warm breath of the giant wolf. Sam looked up at the stars and wondered about the future. Keeping Storm here in the valley meant facing people's worries, but sending Storm away meant breaking the bond they had built. Sam had little in life, yet Storm had filled his world with purpose. Storm lifted his head as if he sensed Sam's thoughts. He shifted closer and placed his large head against Sam's shoulder with surprising gentleness. It was the same gesture Storm had given the first day Sam pointed at him and said he was his. Sam smiled and rested his hand on Storm's thick fur. He realized that Storm had been given many choices already. Storm chose not to run. Storm chose trust. Now it was Sam's turn. The next morning, Sam saddled his horse and wrote a letter for the messenger. Storm waited quietly, watching Sam's movements with steady eyes. When the messenger returned, Sam handed him the letter. Inside, Sam wrote that Storm would stay in the valley and that he would take full responsibility for his care. The messenger read the words, nodded respectfully, and rode away. Sam felt nervous but relieved. With the decision made, Sam focused on creating a safe living space for Storm. He built a larger shelter using fallen branches and smooth stones from the creek. He made sure Storm had fresh water every day and collected strong ropes to guide visitors who wanted to see Storm from a safe distance. Slowly, people began to accept that Storm was not a threat. Children asked questions and pointed at the giant wolf with wide smiles. Families came with small gifts for Sam as thanks for taking care of such a rare creature. One afternoon, a young girl named Mira visited with her parents. Mira was shy and hid behind her father at first. Sam noticed and spoke gently, explaining that Storm would not harm her. Storm sat calmly with his tail stretched behind him. Mira took a slow step forward, then another. She looked at Sam and then at Storm. Sam nodded and encouraged her. Storm lowered his head and waited. Mira reached out her hand and touched Storm's fur. Her smile grew bright and full of wonder. Moments like this made Sam realize how much Storm was helping the community. Storm brought people together. He helped them let go of fear and learn to trust something different. Even those who doubted at first returned later with friendly greetings and warm conversations. Sam worked hard, but he felt proud. As seasons changed, Storm grew even stronger and healthier. His large paws left deep marks in the soil, and his thick coat shined under sunlight. Sam learned how to understand Storm's moods and needs. When Storm felt restless, Sam walked with him along the hills. When Storm wanted to rest, Sam stayed nearby. Their bond became the strength of their days. One winter morning, heavy snow covered the valley. The cabin roof sparkled with frost and the trees bent under the weight of white branches. Sam stepped outside to check on Storm and found the wolf already awake. Storm looked at the snowy hills as if inviting Sam. Sam laughed and followed him. Storm moved with surprising ease through the snow, leaving wide tracks behind. Sam trailed beside him on horseback. Together they explored the silent winter world. During the journey, Sam realized something important. Storm did not stay with him because he had nowhere else to go. Storm stayed because he felt connected. Sam offered him kindness, and Storm returned trust. The valley had become their shared home. When spring arrived, the valley bloomed with bright flowers and fresh grass. People returned again to visit Storm, but now they came with warm hearts instead of concerns. Many said the valley felt more welcoming because Storm lived there. Sam felt grateful each time he heard such words. One evening, as the sky turned orange and clouds drifted slowly, Sam sat with Storm near the creek. The water reflected the colors of the sunset. Sam spoke softly, telling Storm how proud he was of him and how thankful he felt for their journey together. Storm listened quietly, then placed his head on Sam's knee. It was a moment filled with peace. Sam smiled because he understood something that he had not realized before. When he pointed at the giant wolf on that first day and said he was his, he had not rescued Storm. Storm had rescued him too. Storm had given him a friend, a purpose, and a new life. From that day on, everyone in the valley knew the story of the giant wolf and the poor cowboy who claimed him with a simple gesture. It became a story of trust, hope, and the power of kindness. Storm stayed by Sam's side and Sam stayed by his, and together they built a life that felt full and meaningful. The valley never forgot them, and their bond remained a gentle reminder that even the most unexpected friendship can change everything.